Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are at. My name is John Witt, and this is a handstand prep class. So if you've taken the class before, thanks for coming back. I hope the class is helping you. I love the messages that I've been receiving. For those of you that have been taking the class, it's great that you're getting success from the class. You know, that's obviously my goal, is to help you as much as I can. So if you ever have any questions, you could always send me a message directly. You could also send me a video. That's the easiest way to help anyone, whether it's me or someone else. That's such a great way to develop practice, is just getting direct feedback from another person. So if you want to learn more about me and how you could contribute to the class, all my information is on my website. It's johnwittyoga.com. It helps me provide yoga and my services to others that can't afford yoga at this time. So I've been teaching this class since March. I love teaching it. I think everybody at some point, if they were really striving for a better practice, a stronger practice, a handstand's a great place to start. So if you're still not getting up, it is a process and it can be very frustrating. So if it is, it's something that you'd have to take things out or add in. So just for instance, if it was just that you're lacking strength, you know, we could work more on your strength levels multiple times through the week. And it's not easy at first, but that's like a quick way to kind of get you back up to speed to get up. Today I'm going to be working more on how to kick up. So kicking up can be a bit complicated, so I'll give you cues in terms of how to come up and how to, get over that hurdle. And often I find people are trying to get too perfect in kicking up. Like if you have a good base, you have a decent plank that you can hold the position for, like, say 60 seconds. If you're a person that's very conscious or whatever, it's okay to kick up, right? It's a good place to start. So how I'm going to start the class is I'm going to be in an all-four position. So my hands are just underneath my shoulders. So just to protect your wrists, if you did not know, I'm guiding my index fingers forward, just straight forward. So it's almost kind of like a J. If I look down at my hands, my right hand looks like a J and my left hand looks like a backwards J. So I'm just moving my weight forward and I'm moving it back. And, initially, all these positions, I really work on getting stronger in the hands. Like push, not that your life depends on it, obviously, but you want to push enough, because when you start to bring more and more weight in your hands, often people don't use enough strength, and then it starts to hurt, right? The wrists start to hurt, or they collapse, right? So you want to use enough strength to support the weight of your body, and it gets easier. So using your hands really strong on the floor is good. I really believe strongly in hanging from bars, like passive hanging, active hanging. You're wanting to work up more time in an active and passive hang. You mix in both. And that could help you get over a minute hang, possibly a 2-minute hang on a bar. So I'm going to be moving my hands, my shoulders just over my hands, and I'm going to press through my hands, and I'm going to just round a little bit through the shoulders. And it's not bad if you're rounding through the upper back, but make it more shoulder specific. And then just let the chest relax down, and then push. So I'm holding about 3 seconds at the top, and then about 3 seconds down, and then I'm retracting for a couple counts, and then I'm pushing back up, trying to line up the eyes and my elbows forward. So it's more of an external rotation in the shoulders. And just one more time, I'm going to let the chest move down, and then I'm going to press to the hands and round through the shoulders. So you're rounding through your back. So I'm going to lift up into plank pose. So as I take my knees up off the floor, I'm reaching back through the heels. I want to be in a posterior tilt. So you want to bring the tailbone down. Might look a little off from what you've done before, but it'll help hold the line when you come up into handstand, right? So get the tailbone to come underneath, kind of like the cat stretch that we do in yoga, and then lifting the knees up off the floor and pushing through the hands and getting the shoulders to support you. So take 5 deep breaths. right? Move the weight forward. And if you're, a good hold, not that you have to hold it for 20, 30 seconds, but that's a good starting point. And then it could be multiple reps of that, right? And then pull back up into a down dog. And then in a down dog, pedal the legs out just to get the heels moving down into the floor. Press the hands on the floor. Pull the thighs back in space, right? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk my feet forward, middle of my mat. I'm going to walk my hands back towards my feet. So in piking or forward bending, you want to think of lifting your legs to your chest. Like in yoga, we use Navasana. In gymnastics, they use, hollow body holds. They're really the same position. So you're trying to move your legs to the upper body. So just take a couple deep breaths here. I'm bringing the weight forward into the front of my feet, and then I'm bringing the weight back into the heels. Not bad to bend the knees. You got back pain, right? Or you just want to stretch out the upper body more. The knees are bent. So I'm going to purposely bring my hands off the floor and round my upper back. This is just to warm you up. Not that this is going to obviously help the handstand, but just to give you a good warm up, I'm just rounding my back. And then I'm going to extend my lower back. And especially if you don't feel good today, do what's obviously better for you, right? So I'm purposely taking my hands off the floor one more time. So I'm rounding through my upper back. So I really shouldn't feel it so much in my lower back. And if you do, you're probably not rounding enough through the upper back, or you're compensating, or you're relying on your lower back too much, right? And then what I'm going to do is roll myself up to standing. And then as I roll up, I'm just going to take the arms up into an overhead position. So my arms are up overhead. I'm pressing through my feet, and I'm actually thinking that I am in the handstand. So that as I'm overhead, I want to keep working on this. And it doesn't look like it helps, but it makes a difference. So whether you're practicing this overhead position, or you're doing it on your back, or you're doing it on your abdomen, all of these lines, these handstand line drills, makes a big difference. And then when you get upside down, you don't have to focus on it so much. Because I find when people, when they get upside down, they're trying to do all these different things, and they don't really understand it in these more simplistic ways, and that's partially why they can't hold it for very long, right? So I'm going to come up onto the toes. I'm going to lift my heels off the floor, just so that I'm active here. A couple deep breaths. And then I'm going to slowly lower the heels. I'm going to take the arms down. I'm going to take my feet out. So I've said this before about getting stronger in your legs. It'll help kicking up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my feet out and do a horse stance. So people walk it out, heel toe, heel toe. When you bend the knees, if it feels really loaded in the knees, the stance should be longer, right? You want to load up the hamstrings. So I'm sitting down, my thumbs are up, and I'm rotating my shoulders back. And then I'm going to come up, and then I'm just, a couple deep breaths, and then I'm going to sit down into the pose. So in terms of flexibility, you can certainly strive for a lower position, but in terms of strength, I wouldn't sit super low, if you're wanting to get stronger. So bring yourself up. A combination of both is I think is good. If you really lack the flexibility, it makes sense to develop more. And if you're a person that has really good flexibility and you want to keep it, it's maintaining it, that's what we're doing. I'm going to come up, I can take the arms down if I need to. I'm going to take the arms out. Again, I'm rotating the shoulders, and this is just good practice for, again, the overhead positions. And then I'm going to bring myself up. And then one more time, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to bend the knees. So I'm actively pushing my legs apart. I'm not just sitting low. I'm moving the legs out towards the sides of my room to help with getting into my hamstrings and my hips. And then I'm going to come up. And then when I come up, I'm just going to bring the feet in. So I'm going to warm up your hamstrings a little bit. And then I'll stretch them out. And then we'll get into like handstanding. So I'm going to bring my feet just neutral, just so that you can see me. I'm turning. I'm going to bring my left foot to my left hand. So if it's easy for you to touch your foot, make a fist, and then try to get the heel to the fist, just so that it's a little bit more challenging. And it's not bad to hold the foot. This is passive stretching, right? But just to warm up your hamstrings, is I'm trying to keep the leg up as much as I can without just holding the foot. And then I'm going to bring it down. I'm going to turn over to the other side. Same thing. I'm going to try to get my foot to my hand. And I'm okay with not touching, right? It's just how can I actively keep my leg up in order to strengthen my hamstring to work on getting my leg up. Because the strength of the hamstring is what helps to kick the leg up. So just be in a split stance. So I'm going to step my left foot back, just in a pyramid stance. And then as I'm here, I'm going to come forward just enough where I'm exposing the hamstring. So it might look something like this. Some people would say, oh, you're not getting low enough. Just for the sake of exposing your hamstrings, just go to the angle where you feel the best stretch within the back of the leg. Now you could hold this, but I'm going to come up and I'm going to come forward a couple times. So I'm going to do this 2 more times. So I'm coming forward just to stretch out the leg. Again, if you're like, hey, static holds are better for me, then you just stay in a static hold. I'm going to come up and then I'm coming forward. And this is more, some would say this is just stretching, which yes, it is. And it's just the way of coming forward kind of teach I really believe it helps in releasing the leg better for some, and that's why I'm doing it. So you can come up. So step the left foot forward and step the right foot back. You want to be in an anterior tilt of the pelvis. So when I come forward, I'm moving my pubic bone forward. And then as I'm in it, my pelvis is bringing me forward. And this is what's stretching out my leg or my calf muscle. You can have your hands on something, of course, right? But I'm going to the level where I'm exposing my leg, not necessarily my back. And then I'm going to come up, and then I'm coming forward, bringing myself forward, really exposing the leg here, and then I'm coming up. And then last time I'm going to come forward. So the pubic bone's forward, I'm moving forward. My hands are on my pelvis just to kind of measure my hips. It's not bad if the hips were skewed, but if you get them to be more squared, makes it a little bit more specific in the hamstring. And then you can, bring yourself up. So I'm going to come back down on the hands and do some stretching for your wrist. And then we'll go up into our first handstand. We'll try our first handstand. So have the hands as wide as, say, a little wider than your shoulders. So the backs of my hands are on the floor, and I'm creating some tension in the fingers. So just to stretch out the forearms a little bit more. So I'm off the mat, but you should be on your mat just so that it's padded. And these could be a little intense. So what you could do is just hold the top position. I'm going to come forward and come down, and then I'm going to come back up to straight arms. Right, so my elbows are, over in a 90-degree angle over the hands, the wrist when I bend them. And then I'm here, I'm pushing to the backs of the hands. I'm going to come down. All the time, the whole time I'm pushing, right? So that it's actively supporting the wrist. I'm going to come down again. And then I'm going to come up. And then one more time coming down. And then back up into the straight arm position. And then bring your hands underneath you and have the hands just underneath the shoulders, and you can just rock around. So I'm just moving the weight around just to adjust my hands, my wrist. I really think it's important to do this so that, because things might not go your way and you may fall out. So you really don't want to kind of know how you can hold your weight better. So I'm going to turn the hands out. And the hands turned out, I'm just bringing more and more leverage into the wrist. So more if I can handle it, right? And then back to center. And then I'm going to have the hands just underneath the shoulders. And with these, I'm going to lift the heels of my hands off the floor. So try to keep the weight forward. Rotate the eyes of the elbows forward. And then lift the heels of the hands up off the floor. And then slowly lower them down. Take them up. Bring them down. Take them up, bring them down, up, and down. My thumbs are up, so the 4 fingers stay down on the floor the whole time. Just stretch out the hand more. Lower, just 2 more. Lift them up and lower. So you want to make this more difficult. Bring your knees back further, but still keep your hands, your shoulders over your hands. So lower makes it a lot more difficult to take the hands up, and then lower. Last stretch for the wrist is I'm going to turn both of my hands back towards my knees, and then same thing, I'm just moving the weight laterally, side to side, and then as I move the weight side to side, I'm just going to pull back and just play around with bringing more weight into your left hand and into your right. And, you know, like anything, it's not just doing it just to get further back, right? You're doing it to expose the wrist, the forearm, right? Just so that, again, you're more prepared so that when you do come up into the handstand that it's not going to hurt you. So I'm just on my toes, just going to open and close the hands. So if you're a person that can't do a handstand yet, you're not comfortable with it, you're not going to kick up today, you can hold a static hold in the plank for 20 to 60 seconds. But what I've done in the past is, like I said about being perfected in this, is I'm just going to kick up and I'm going to come down, right? And you might only do that once or twice or 3 times, something like that. But what you could do is that you could set a timer when you do it on your own and just get your number, whatever that number is. But then as weeks go on, you can increase the number. And if you're holding it longer, well, then obviously the number isn't as high, right? But I find people, they kick up and they really aren't very skilled in kicking. So they just kick up once and then they hold it, which is really good for strength, but it's not so much for skill. And then they're kind of like, well, why is my kick up so hard? Why am I banging into the wall so much? So when you kick up, in volume, more than once, it'll keep refining your kick up, and then your kick up will get better and better, and then you'll be able to kick up on your own. So my hands are going to be underneath my shoulders. I'm about a hand distance away from the wall, right? If you need to be further away, you can be a little bit further away. But my hands, again, hands are turned out. I'm protracting through the shoulders, and then I'm going to lift. And then when I lift up, I'm walking in, so I have weight in my hands. Again, I'm going to kick up with my right leg, come down, and alternate my legs if I can. And those of you that will watch this on YouTube, is you can rewind and kind of see how I do that if you need more of a reference. So I'm going to kick up with my right leg. Right, then my right leg will come down, and then my left leg will be up. And then left up, and then right, and then left down, and then right up. Push, right down, left up, left down, right up, right down, left up, left down, and then the right would go up. But just, I didn't time it. I was planning to time it. I don't have my watch with me. But just, again, a number is good. Like, say you do it like 2-3 times. But then as you get stronger, then try to build it up. And counting is good. Time is good. And it's all really kind of to measure, and then you can increase it. So like one way you could do it is you could say you do it 2-3 times, and then each week you could build up another set, so on. But I would start with handstands at least twice a week, and then you can build it up to 3 times, and then multiple times a day, right? Eventually you can do it just about any time, because you've prepared yourself, you've done it enough. You can really do many, 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 many long practices on your hands. That's something that you desire to do. So I'm going to come up into a down dog. So lift up into a down dog, pull back through the thighs, walk the heels out,
Really reach down to the heels. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my stance a little bit shorter, and I'm going to reach across for my left leg. So I'm going to grab my heel if I can, and then as I'm turning, I'm doing this to adjust the wrist. So maybe you can see it, maybe not. I'm rotating my forearm as my heel is reaching down for the floor, just to give you some space in the wrist, right? Just to give you a little bit of, you could do this in hanging on anything. You know, if you had a weight in your hand and you're just, or hanging from a bar, right? Just a little bit of rotation in the arm can help with giving you more space in the wrist. So release that foot, right hand to left foot, and then bend the knees, reach for the left foot, and grab hold of the heel, if you can get hold of it, and then try to turn the heels out, right, just so that you're getting more into your back. And then I'm just going to rotate my forearm out. So this is external rotation of the forearm. And then I'm going to rotate the forearm in. And then I'm going to rotate it out. And then I'm going to rotate it back in. And then one more time out. And then one more time back in. So I'm going to bring my left hand back where it was. I'm going to walk my feet in. And I'm going to slowly roll myself up to a standing position. So coming up, back into standing. So I'm going to mix in some hip opening in between. It's kind of like what you could do is if, you know, I wrote out a handstand program for you, I'd probably give you at least 2 minutes of rest in between. So when you do this, you could actively be working on things as opposed to just, you know, sitting and waiting, right? You could work on your hips, you could work on your spine, right? I'm going to work on the hips. So I'm going to take my feet out in a wide stance, just kind of like the horse stance. So if I can't do a Cossack stretch, you know, work on the horse stance, and then the horse stance will develop the Cossack. So I'm just moving the weight around just to kind of see, you know, especially if you're not familiar with this pose, is I'm going to try to get lower, and I could do it with my hands. So you could bring your hands down and do a block or something like that. Often people ask me, is it okay if the heel lifts up? It's okay, but what I would do is I'd work on being more upright. And as you're upright, then you'll start to kind of see how you can add more demand where you actually need it. Because if I lift the heel up or I crouch forward, I'm basically not going where I really need to go. Now, obviously, you can't force yourself into a too deep of a position just yet so you don't hurt yourself, but you could have your hands down, right? You could be holding a little bit of weight, could be good, could be very helpful. But as I'm in this, just kind of moving the thighs apart, trying to keep myself upright. I'm going to go into my right side again. Again, if I'm working more strength, I'm trying to be in a position where I'm actually active. As I get lower, it's more just stretching, which isn't bad. But again, if you're a person that needs more strength, stay up. So bring yourself over to the left side. As you go to the left, you can push out through the thigh. Now I'm going to turn my right foot up, and then it's more hamstring. Right? It's way more demanding in the hamstring. And then just to get more into the spine, so I'm going to stretch my arms forward or out to the side. And when my arms are to the side, it's more to bring me more forward. More demanding ways, I think this is a good place to start. So bring yourself up and then go over to the right side. As you go over to the right, use your hands. I'm going to elevate my left heel or my toes on my left foot, and then I'm forward. And just to add more into the pelvis and into the back, my arms up to the side, and I'm bringing myself forward. I'm going to take a couple deep breaths here, and then bringing yourself back up, and then you're up into standing. Just take the feet out into a wide stance. Nothing crazy wide, right? But just wide enough. And this could be something in addition before you do the Cossack, is that you could hold this for 10 to 30 seconds. 10 to 20 seconds is what I'd start with. And then I'd come out of it, right? But then I would go back into it. So then again, and that could be multiple reps. But each time you do this, should see that it gets a little bit easier and you do sit a little bit lower. Not that I'm going to sit you very low today, just again, kind of a filler between we doing the handstand again. So toe heel the feet in a little bit closer and just step the feet back into neutral
and just standing in a neutral position. So I do these from time to time, is working more on the posterior tilt. So I'm going to do a little bit of Navasana, a body line, and then I'm going to do one more handstand. And for a beginner, because I work often with beginners or someone that are just starting out with this is more than what they would really do on their own, and that's why I'm kind of structuring this class as I am. So have the hands on the hips, bring the tailbone down, the pubic bone's lifting up, and then stick your butt out. This is what you don't want in your handstand. And then bringing the tailbone down and lifting the pubic. So the glutes are really strong here. Wasn't really focusing on it when we were kicking up. I was just getting you to get some practice in kicking up and getting some weight in your hands. So stick it out one more time. Bring the tailbone down, right? I'm going to come, taking my feet out a wide distance. I'm going to stretch my arms forward, and then I'm down in a low squat, right? So you can practice squatting more. I'm going to, again, work on my line in my handstand, my straight line, and then I'll work a boat, and then we'll go up into handstand one more time. So bring your hands forward, come into forward bend. Bring your hands forward where your fingers are pointed forward, your thumbs are in. And then as I'm hollowed through the front of my body, I'm going to take 10 seconds to get down if I can. So 10, 9, 8, 7, right? All this time I'm resisting. 5, 4, keep the weight in the hands. 3, 2, and 1, and you're down. So when you're down, have your feet together, your heels are together. Just take your arms into a cactus position. I've used this a few times. I find it very helpful for handstanding. So I'm going to bring my abdomen away from the floor and my ribs in. So hopefully you can kind of see how my lower back lifts up a little bit, right? When I'm in this position. And just have your forehead down and work harder, work stronger, I should say. Work stronger in getting your ribs away from the floor. Because when you do walking your feet up the wall, chest to wall, that's what you're working on, is keeping your chest away from the wall. It's the same thing as you're trying to keep your chest away from the floor. So bring it in, squeeze your glutes, really work on this, and it's very good for the back. It's just such a basic thing, but so good for the spine. So take a couple deep breaths, and then just let that relax, and we're going to do the more active version. So if you have really limited mobility in the shoulders, have your hands in a Y position. If you're okay in this, I'm not going to hold it really long, but we'll hold it for about 20 seconds, something like that, where the arms are up. If you have the mobility, the hands are as wide as the shoulders to assimilate the handstand. So I'm going to bring my head down, heels in, tailbone's tucked under, and the ribs are in, and then I'm going to take my arms off the floor. So working in actively bringing the ribs away from the floor, actively working on keeping the abdomen away from the floor as well. So keep lifting the arms. And then bringing the arms down. Have the hands underneath the shoulders. I'm just going to do a straight up press up to a plank. So have the hands turned out. Just push into the floor. So first, just get rather than pushing all the way up, just push a little bit so that you can relate to the floor, like you can connect into the floor. Then as you use your knuckles, feet could be tucked, which is much easier to do. I'm going to keep my feet flat. And I'm going to press straight up, right? And then holding, and then holding the line of, like I would be in my handstands, just a different line, right? And then I'm going to come down with my knees. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to lie back on my back and do the hollow body hold. So the arms don't have to be overhead. Hands can support the head at first. But if you have to support your head with your hands. In my opinion, there's very basic ways to get your neck stronger. That would be the first thing that I would do. And then just for the well-being of your neck and the longevity of your neck, that's what I would do. But for today, support the head with the hands. But what I'm going to do is have my back into the floor and my knees over my hips. So this is a basic version, just arms forward and just this tuck position. This is good. This is easy. So this is easy. And if you did the easy version, you know, if you could, I'd do 5 to 10 repetition or sets of these if I couldn't do the full version. But I'm going to take my feet over my hips. As I bring my legs forward, if my back comes off the floor, then I'm not bringing my legs any more forward than I am. But if I can, I'm going to take my arms overhead. So keeping my ribs in, and I'll be here for about 8 more breaths. And then bringing the knees back over the hips and bringing your feet down. Have your hands over your elbows. Just lift up. Just adjust your back a bit. Bring the tailbone underneath. Nothing crazy, just more neutral. And then you can bring the hips down. So, you know, again, kicking up is too, like I said, if your legs are really tight, it's very difficult to kick up. So what you could do is you could stretch out your legs more with a strap or with a, you know, any kind of tight fabric. But I'm going to go up and I'm going to kick up again. So I'm going to do another set of the kick ups. So if you've been kicking up for a while, try to look more to the heel of the hand as opposed to the fingertips. Try not to look forward so much, because by looking forward so much, it really creates a very it's kind of a bad habit. It's just harder because you're going to be more in a back bend when you're in your inversion, and you really want to be more neutral. So try to look more to the heels of the hands. Again, index fingers are forward. If you need to turn your hands out more than that, that's okay. It's just a little bit harder to balance in. Again, protract the shoulders. Try to keep the ribs in the whole time that you're doing this. And if you are just holding a static hold, try to get your glutes involved. So, right, some people it's better to just hold statically, but I'm going to do another set of kick-ups. So when I have my hands down the floor, I'm going to protract through the shoulders. I'm going to keep my ribs in, and then I'm going to swing my right. I'm going to keep my right leg down, but I'm going to bring it up, right? And then I'm going to bring my right leg down and keep my left leg up, and then bringing my left leg up. And bringing my left leg down, and then bringing my right leg up. Right leg comes down, left leg comes up, left leg comes down, right leg comes up, right leg comes down, left leg comes up last time, and then if you can, hold. Keep the ribs in. Push, push, push. Let the hands and fingertips bring the left leg down. And then we're going to come back into a squat. So in squatting, feet can turn out. You can open and close the hands. All right, just going to bring my left hand over my right and just pulling the hand back towards the chest just a little bit, just to stretch out the shoulders. So when I was on the floor and I was doing those are called finger push-ups, maybe those are way too intense. This is obviously the much easier, so couldn't do those. It's okay, right? There's other ways to manipulate the wrists. And, you know, if you have a lot of practice on your hands, calisthenics, I say this sometimes from time to time, is that maybe you need less of this. Maybe you don't really need a whole lot. You know, I go through stages where I don't use any kind of wrist work, and then there's times when I use quite extensively, so it's consistently. Because like with anything, you never really know. And that's why I think it's so good to not always do your practice the same way. Like it's good to have consistency, right? To really plug in, but it's also good to like spread that consistency out so you can really kind of see if it is helping you. So come back into a down dog, pull back with the hips, reach down through the heels, right? And then walk the feet in a little bit closer. And then we're going to reach across again for the left foot with the right hand, and then pull back with the hips. Same thing, just move the arm a little bit. So moving the forearm, right? Just to give you a little bit of space in the wrist. And then bringing the right hand back down, and then reach across with the left hand for the right heel. Push down through the right heel, and then just externally rotate so the eye of the elbow is just kind of rotating more up. And then just letting that relax. You could rotate it in and then out. And it's very hard to move independently, but think that it's more of the forearm that you're moving as opposed to the upper arm bone. And then bring the left head back down. Slowly lower all the way down, and you're back onto your belly. So we're going to do another line, just a body line drill. Like I said, if you get into practicing and you're doing handstands at the wall or whatnot, or you're doing it in the middle of the room, the more you do these lines on your own, it's not so complicated to do them. But if you don't do these, it's really difficult to do when you're upside down. So that the importance of these they're not as flashy, they might not be as exciting, but they are really very valuable. So come down, have the feet together, and again, for those of you that are, got something going on in your shoulder, or you just want to make it easier today, you can pull the abdomen away from the floor and the ribs away from the floor, and your head is down. So I'm just making it easy initially, just so you have something to work with. Again, something that is going to get you closer and closer is better than biting off too much too soon. So try to keep your ribs in, keep your abdomen in, get your glutes to support you, and then just let that relax. So again, same version. Now arms could be in a Y position or just straight up overhead. So squeeze the heels together, get the forehead down, and then bring the abdomen and the tailbone underneath you. Keep the ribs away from the floor. I'm just lifting my head so you can hear me, but I'm going to keep my head down. So get that all together, right? Piece all that together, and then lift the arms. Really lift up through the arms. Keep the ribs in. Take 5 deep breaths. And then bringing the arms back down. Have the hands just underneath the shoulders. Be on the toes if you're just learning, push-ups. Be on the tops of your feet if you can. If you want to get a little bit stronger through this. So again, push into the floor. Maybe you're just pushing, right? Consistently pushing for 5-10 seconds. That's better than just trying to pop up with your legs, right? So I'm pushing straight up to the top of my push-up. Just hold for 3, 2, and then 1. Just have the toes tucked and sit back onto the heels. So sit back on the feet. If you can sit upright, great. This is not better, it's just more leverage. Come forward, untuck the toes, and sit back on the feet. So like when you're getting into like lower, like Cossack and some squatting variations, more like low gait type of locomotion, a lot of it comes down to the feet. So mobilizing your feet at least a few times a week is, in my opinion, very important. Just in the big scheme of things, like, you want healthier knees and hips. A lot of it depends on the feet. So come back off of the knees, and you're going to sit back down. And then when you sit down, we're going to come into that hollow body hold again. So again, just take track of your time, whatever the time may be. and just be like, okay, well, maybe the first 3 sets you do at 15, 20 seconds, and then say the next 2 to 3 sets that you do on your own, it might be like 5 or 10 seconds, but that's a really easy way to keep building up. But usually people get hung up on like, oh, I got to do a minute or I got to do half a minute. And it's like some of the shorter holds will help build up to longer holds. Right? Now that longer holds are the be all, right? So I'm going to come back onto my back. Again, support your head if you need to. Come up with your head and your shoulders. Really get this good hold here. And maybe this is your position, right? I'm going to take my legs forward. Once I take my legs forward, I'm going to take my arms overhead. So really stretching out through the arms, keeping the ribs in. Take a couple deep breaths here. Breathe in, breathe out. Extend through the toes. And then bringing the knees back over the hips, bringing the feet down, bring the hands over the elbows. Push down through the heels of the feet. Lift through the hips. Round down through the shoulders. All right, just to add just a bit of a counter. Right, and then bringing the hips down. And then I'm going to roll to my right side. I'm going to bring myself back up. I'm going to come back up into a down dog. So in a down dog, get in the habit of pointing the index finger forward. Rotate the arms out. Press the hands to the floor. Pull back up into down dog. Pedal the legs out. Right, get your hips to pull back. Right, come forward with the feet. Walk the hands back towards the feet. Slowly, slowly roll yourself up. And then just one more time, we're going to go into the Cossack stretch. So take the feet out in a wide space. With the feet out wide. Turn the feet out. The feet turned out. Just get a sense of like where you can go. Because maybe you shouldn't go into one leg. But I'm going to go into my left side first. And I'm leaning into my right. And then coming back up and going to my left. Right? Coming back into my right. And again, I think it's better to stay upright rather than getting lower, right? Don't compromise yourself just to get lower. So I'm lifting my left foot up off the floor just to expose my hamstring a little bit more. And then I'm just, if I could, I'm going to practice sitting down, but then also coming up. So, use your hands, of course, if you need to. So bring the hips down for a moment. So I'm barely touching the floor, then I'm down, and I'm pushing through the heel. I'm lifting myself up. One more time, I'm going to sit down, just add a little bit more. Where I feel it is my left hip. Could be different for you. So push strong through the right foot, bring yourself up. Go to the left side. As you go to the left, you could be reaching for your right leg, depending on how you do this is how I would teach you. Everybody's a little bit different. So I could lift the toes of the right foot, and then I'm, sitting. Use your hands, of course, if you're using the variation that I use on the opposing side. So I'm going to sit down. I'm going to push through the heel. Try not to pitch forward too much. It's okay initially, but it's like, when you get up out of a chair, there shouldn't be like this ton of momentum that brings you forward and up. Right? You should be able to get yourself out of a chair. This is obviously way more difficult. So sit down, then push down through the left foot, bring yourself up, and you're just back into standing. So just take the feet back into somewhat neutral, right? Standing nice and tall, and just kind of see how the weight sits in the feet. So I'm going to go back into just a little bit, some rotational work, something that I think is valuable. You could certainly do this on your knees. So if I'm strong in my legs, I'm able to turn and twist. I'm going to do some sissy squat rotations. So I'm up on my toes. I'm turning through my body. I'm reaching through my left heel. Right? I think it's way more valuable to be stronger, and that's why I'm using these more and more for people, is because you don't want to just be flexible, right? You want to be strong and able. So I'm turning. I'm up on the toes. My glutes are engaged. I could reach further back. For you, this is where I would start. Another thing is if you can't get the heel with your hand and you want to touch, have a yoga block between your hand and your foot. And then just make that yoga block smaller and smaller. You'll be able to get down lower. I'm going to do one more to the left. So I'm rotating
turning. I'm never really concerned because there's days that I don't feel as able as I do in other days. I'm never really concerned if I can't grab the foot or the floor, do what I could last week or something like that, right? I'm okay when things are a little bit more difficult for myself. So I'm lifting the heels, my glutes are again tight. I want to be lifting through the upper body, reaching back, and then coming up. And you'll see which side's weaker, which side's stronger, right? So come up on the toes, reach back for the foot, bring yourself back up. One more time, I'm gonna come up with the heels, and then I'm turning, reaching for the foot, and bringing myself up. So just come down into a seated position, and in a seated position, just have the legs crossed. Reach out to the right side. Now, you don't have to get as low as I am, but I'm getting to my elbow, and then I'm coming up, right? So I'm coming down on the elbow on purpose, just to expose my left side more, and then up, and then coming down. If I wanted to, I could take my left hand behind my head, and then bringing myself up. So recross the legs, take the left hand to the left, reach the right hand out to the right. You know, explore coming forward in space, explore going back in space. Get to the elbow if that's good. You know, just find the angles that really do need more leverage. I mean, that's just, in my opinion, smart practice, as opposed to always going into the same line or the same angle. Because just because it looks aesthetically, I guess, better or more spectacular isn't always really better for a person, right? So I'm going to get down, and then I'm going to come back up. All right, so with these afternoon classes, I don't teach a Shavasana, but you could certainly lie down. You could enjoy your rest, your hard work. It's not easy to train like this, but it's well worth it. And I hope it's supporting you in a healthier, better lifestyle. So again, if you have any questions, reach out to me anytime. Send me a video. Let me know how it's going. Let me know if you need more specific work and practice. And I could either make a short video or I could include it in these classes. So if you're not a subscriber to YouTube, you could subscribe, and then you would be notified when I upload these classes. And then also you'd be notified when I upload other, means of practice that I'm doing smaller videos or shorter videos just to help with people's practices. You can like and subscribe. That helps me, lets more and more people know about me and my services. And I'd love to help more people. And that's why I got into teaching yoga many, many years ago. So I'd like to help more people as I continue with my yoga teaching. All right, have a beautiful weekend. If I don't see you, I have a class tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern. It's a live class. Sunday class is a 10 a.m. Zoom class. You'd register on my website. All right, have a beautiful weekend. Namaste.